Syria now, where the new administration is stepping up its campaign to track down members of the ousted regime of Bashar al-Assad. Over the weekend, security forces deployed to the Latakia region to flush out remnants of Assad militias and confiscate weapons and ammunition. Syria's new rulers have been working to assert their authority. And that's been the case since capturing Damascus 3 weeks ago. The cities of Latakia, Homs and Tartus have seen deadly clashes in recent days between the new administration's security forces and supporters of the ousted regime. Well, let's speak now to Aaron Zellin. He's a Syria analyst at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Welcome to DW News. So tell us, how many pro-Assad fighters are there in Syria?
I don't think anybody has a specific number, but I imagine it's likely in the low thousands. Most of the foot soldiers, they just want to move on with their lives. And then the most senior people have likely fled the country at this time. So these are mostly middle to senior management type folks within the former regime that have everything to lose in many respects.
OK, so if you're saying it's in the low thousands, do these groups pose any real threat to the new rulers?
It's definitely possible. We've already seen a number of ambushes against Hayat Tahrir al-Sham forces, the group that controls the country now, where a number of their fighters have been killed. We've also seen remnants of the regime, being involved in theft and seizing people's property and the like, which has led to civil discourse as well. Thankfully, it hasn't risen to the level where it's destabilized things at a large scale. But at this time, it's a much of a nuisance to most people.
All right. Now, we know that Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow, and you touched on it just there a little bit before about other members of, we'll say, the ruling classes. What about the say, senior members of Assad's inner circle?
We've seen some cases of some individuals going to Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. There have also been a number of people that have shown up in Lebanon. Today, the Lebanese government actually sent 70 members of the regime back to the new government in Damascus. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out and whether other countries potentially send members of the regime back to Syria to potentially be tried in a court. OK, is there any individual or individuals, we'll say, in Syria who could unite and lead the remaining pro-Assad groups? Not that I'm aware of in particular, because most of these people didn't have large-scale fanfares. A lot of it was being run by the Assad family in many ways, or cousins of the Assad family. Or, for example, the Iranians or Russians previously. And therefore, if somebody does come to the fore, it would likely be someone that most people haven't heard of previously.
All right. Well, does the new administration, as we've mentioned before, how are they dealing with supporters of the old regime?
Well, essentially, they put out statements saying that there would be settlement centers for regime members where they would have to give up their weapons and also get new IDs so that, the new rulers are aware of them. And there was essentially a deadline for this. And today was the end of the deadline. They even extended it in part because of some of what was going on the last few days or so. And so anybody that so far hasn't registered and hasn't given up their weapons is considered fair game now within the system, and they will be arrested.
All right, let's talk about the new regime, or the new administration, I should say. So since taking power around 3 weeks ago, Ahmed al-Shaara's rebel alliances repeatedly emphasised that it wants to create a unified Syria. So how far has it come on this path, bearing in mind, of course, that we're speaking about a pretty short period of time?
In terms of the civilian governance aspect of it, we haven't seen them doing that yet. All of the people in sort of the ministerial and governorship type roles are all loyalists of HTS. But from more of the military side of things, we've seen that most of the rebel groups in the north and in the south, as well as the east, have more or less bent the knee towards Ahmed al-Shara or Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, and are being, integrated into what they're trying to create within this new Ministry of Defense of updated Syrian army.
Really great to have your insights, Aaron. Aaron Zelen, Syria analyst at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy.
Thanks for having me.